Okay, let's do a very quick run through on the fundamental basics of Audacity. Hopefully you've had some exposure to this program from your Com 210 course. I know in most cases that should be the case. Nonetheless, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough to remind you on some fundamental basics. So one scenario is that you might want to have your headset, your microphone directly connected to the computer for your narration. Maybe your interview subjects will be at the computer with you and they'll record direct into the mic. If that happens, of course, you've got the basic record button here. It works really straightforward. I'm going to do a quick test run right here, so I'll hit the record button. Hello and welcome to my production. My name's Brett Atwood and this is an example of how to record your voice. Then you hit stop and notice, of course, we saw that it recorded the voice here. I'll quickly hit playback. I'm not clear if you on this tutorial are going to hear the audio back. We'll try this. So I'm going to put my cursor where I want to play back, hit the play button. Hello and welcome to my production. My name's Brett Atwood. There, you can hear that it basically recorded my voice. All right, well that's great. So that's the fundamental way to get an audio file into there. The other way is, let's assume that you're out on location. Maybe you've used a smartphone audio recording app or a standalone recorder. You may have files, let me move a folder over here, on your desktop that you've transferred over via cable or a Dropbox or any other way to your computer, and they need to simply be imported into the production. So I'm going to quickly just grab one of these. These are all audio files. Let's imagine these are interview segments that you've already recorded with people on location. So I'll just go ahead and grab one, click, drop, and drag. And what will happen is, oops, so we can see it there, it'll actually start to import that file in. Now note that Audacity is kind of particular about audio file formats. It does like MP3, WAV file, I forget which other ones, but you can find them on the support links on the site. Okay, that obviously imported this file. I'm going to go ahead and close out that first file. I actually don't want to use it, so I'm just going to go ahead and, well, actually I'll just go ahead and mute it so you won't hear it. And I'll go ahead and hit play, and you're going to see that it will play back the second file. This week we're going to be looking at some alternative forms of pitching. Okay, so this is the second file. We now have two different files on the track. Note that one difference here is that one of these files was recorded in mono and the other was recorded with a stereo recording. So sometimes you'll notice that the tracks themselves are a little bit different. This one just has one big wave, whereas the second one had two waves. And so that can be confusing for people on occasion. All right, so how do we work with the audio tracks and what are the menu options for this? We've shown you basic recording, we've shown you basic imports, but of course you may want to do some edits within the tracks itself. So I'm going to do very quick and dirty work here. We'll go through these various tools here. So let's start with the little zoom tool. If you click the magnifying glass at any time, note that your cursor turns into a magnifying glass. That magnifying glass can then be clicked on top of any file to stretch it out. You may see that inside the magnifying glass is a little plus sign, but you can also toggle it if you hold down the shift key, as I'm doing right now, and that will actually basically make the reverse when you click with the shift held down, so that it sort of shrinks in, as opposed to when it's in a plus sign, it'll zoom at a more broad view. So like kind of like an accordion, it shrinks or it stretches accordingly. So that's important because sometimes you want to make a very precise edit, and if it's all squished together, it's very difficult to do. So that helps. So that's how that works. Remember, you can always get to that mode by clicking the zoom tool here. Again, shift will allow you to toggle between shifting to zoom in or zoom out. Okay. What else? The time shift tool, the little double arrow here at the top, click on that. Your cursor turns into sort of a double-sided arrow, and when you click that on top of any track, notice that it allows you to slide that audio recording on that track to the right or to the left. Okay, so I'll give you an example of how I might do this. Let's say I've got different recorded files or tracks on here. Maybe I've got my introduction, and then I have, I don't know, somebody else that I've interviewed. So we can basically sort of nest them next to each other. I'm going to go back to normal mode here. That's the selection tool. And then I'm going to hit play once I put my cursor back at the front. Oops, let's put it right there. And Hello and welcome to my production. My name's Brett Atwood, and this is an example of how to record your voice. And then it cuts right to the second one. This week we're going to be looking at some alternative forms. Okay, so obviously it played one and then the other because sequentially they're listed one before the other. Very straightforward stuff. Okay, that's how that works. And you can use that to sort of move in front of or behind of or even simultaneously on different tracks, any audio, music, any layers that you want for your production. Okay, I've told you I'm only going to do the basics here. This by no means is this everything. So the other thing I want to show you is audio volume control right here. This icon is called the envelope tool. If we click to activate it, you'll notice that there's sort of a shading that occurs here, and what this does is it allows you just to increase or decrease the audio levels of your recording. So you can basically have the level go down or up or fade in or fade out, really anything you want, whether it be voice, music, whatever it might be. Let me show you how it works once you activate this mode. Notice that these recordings were by default recorded at full volume. If I put my cursor, now that it's in this sort of envelope tool mode, right towards the beginning, I'm going to click. Notice that it created these little dots. These are envelope points, right? I'm going to click again at the very, very beginning. And now I'm going to click, drag, and hold down. See how it's sort of sloping? This is almost the equivalent of being on a mix board where you slide up or pot up from silence to full volume and reverse. Essentially what you can imagine is the center of the file equals silence. So that means that you have it down all the way to 0. And then when it swoops up to full volume, this is at full volume. So what you can predict here is that this is going to start at silence from here and then quietly be quiet, and then it's going to a little louder all the way to full volume. Let me hit play real quick. Whoops, I'm in the wrong. Hang on. Let's put the cursor for playback at the beginning, actually, where we want. I was playing the track that wasn't altered, right? So we'll put the cursor right here. Okay, now we'll hit play. This week we're going to be looking at see, it's quiet, and then getting louder. You can actually see the VU meter here. There's more than just the press I'll stop release. It. So that would probably be more effective to demo with music, but anyway, you get the point. So you could obviously fade in, fade out, change things accordingly. So that's how that works. Okay, for time reasons, I'm going to move real fast here and just show you a couple of basic edits. I'm not going to show you some of the other features here that you won't use. So let's imagine that you want to do a quick cut and paste. So maybe you've got an audio segment. Actually, for clarity reasons, I'm going to go ahead and click and close this file here. So we'll just focus on this one here. And I'm going to use my magnifying glass. Some quick edits here and show you how to move stuff around. So essentially the way it works is you can put your cursor anywhere on your file, click, drag, and hold. You'll see it shading in. And what that is doing is essentially selecting a portion of the file that then something can happen to. So I want to basically cut out this section. Let's imagine this is part of your file. You didn't want it. Maybe you sneezed in the middle of the presentation, or maybe it's just a segment that you want to cut out. Just highlight it and then hit delete. On the keyboard, it goes away. Okay? Highlight, delete, it goes away. It cuts it out. Now, I'm going to restore that by hitting Control Z. That's an edit undo. I also could have gone to edit undo. Well, where is it on here? Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but Control Z will undo the most previous move. Usually it will actually be edit undo right here as well. But that's how you sort of go back a step. Now what if I want to cut and then paste? So instead of deleting it, I'm going to basically highlight it. I'm going to hit Control X for cut. I'm going to put my cursor where I want to paste that in, which is a Control V as in Victor, Control V, and that then pastes it. So it removed it from one section, cut it, and then put it in another. Again, you can move things around, cut and paste accordingly. And that's really the fundamentals of what I'm going to show you. The final thing is how to export. Let's imagine your full production is done. You can then, when you're done, you want to file and then you want to save your project. The project itself is the overall production and all the pieces that you've coordinated. Once you do that, you can actually then also export your audio as well. So file, and then you can see here that it will export. It's going to ask me to save this, which I'm going to do. Sample production. Note that you'll have a choice for what file format to save as. I like MP3, but you'll want to note that by default Audacity needs a plugin. It's actually called the Lame plugin. The links for that information are in the lecture, but if you don't do that, you can do Wave. Those are two common ones. There are some other file formats as well. But we'll likely be working with SoundCloud, which really likes MP3s. I think it'll also take waves. It'll just be a fatter, larger file. So be aware that could be a problem for you. So anyway, whichever one you choose, go ahead and pick it and then hit save. And let me move this over here. It'll give you a pop-up where you have the option to enter in what's called metadata. And honestly, for this class and the purposes, we don't need to do that. But in theory, you can fill out things like artist name, track name, etc., copyright information. We'll hit OK, and that will actually start the process of saving that file. When at that point, that file should be saved wherever you've located it, say on your desktop, at which point you can then upload that as well. Anyway, as promised, this is just a very quick tutorial. It by no means was meant to be comprehensive. There are lots of extra features on here, some of which are actually really quite cool, that you might want to play around with. Honestly, there's things like effects. It's just a bunch of them under here, and noise reduction, just lots of stuff. Some of you may have more experience than others with working with this and or other programs, and you know that this just scratches the surface. Anyway, I hope that gives you the fundamental basics for a review at least of how Audacity works. Thank you.